Welcome back. We're going to get started on cell organelles, the little organs inside of a cell. So the main feature that all cells have, as far as I'm aware, is they each have a cell membrane. It's kind of like the skin. So the surface here, kind of like a skin, and it keeps all the other organs in, just kind of like our skin kind of keeps our muscles and veins and other kinds of organs inside of our body. I think the cell membrane does a similar job, but it also controls what can enter and what can leave the cell. So water and other nutrients can flow into the cell because the cell needs it. And then once it's used those nutrients up, it's going to create some waste products, and those waste products can flow back out again. But it's kind of like their protective layer from like other pathogens or nasty bugs. So it's a part of their defense. But we're not going to go into that sort of information in this video. So moving on. Next feature we have is cytosol. The cytosol is the fluid inside of the cell. Now I've been told that a cell is kind of like a balloon filled with jelly. It's kind of got a bit of a jelliness to it. So that fluid, I presume, would be the cytosol that they're describing. And if we consider the cytosol and the organelles inside, they would be collectively called the cytoplasm. So I've drawn a better diagram here. So rather than doing a cartoon, I've got probably a more accurate diagram of a cell. I've got a bunch of other organelles inside. Collectively, the area within the skin, within the cell membrane, that area will be considered to be called the cytoplasm. Next one, we've got ribosomes. The ribosomes make proteins, and those proteins are what the cell can use or what the cell needs. So I've kind of drawn them as freckles. This is a cartoon here. They're very small, at least of the diagrams that I can find out there, but probably not very helpful. So I've tried to draw a bit more of a detailed cell diagram here, and they tend to be hanging around on this part of my diagram. They're light blue. I'm not sure if that's showing up on camera, but this bit here, I'm trying to draw the endoplasmic reticulum, and we'll cover that in a later part of the video. But these things, they make proteins. What are proteins? Well, they are very complex molecules. So we're kind of moving into the area of chemistry now. A protein, very large, very, very, very large molecule. In fact, it took scientists a very long time to try and figure out how they're put together. And proteins are some of the building pieces for a lot of the features of the cell. So some of those organelles will be made out of those proteins, for example. But there are other types of proteins that which we call enzymes. Enzymes are also really big molecules, and they are really useful for putting stuff together and also to break things apart. So we use enzymes in our stomach digestion to break down the food. So yes, we can mash it up with our teeth and we churn it up in our stomach acid and all that mechanical movement, but we can break it down on a chemical level using these molecules which we call enzymes. We also have other enzymes which help take those smaller pieces and put them together in a way that we can make use out of them to help us build our bodies and maintain them. So ribosomes are very important. Next, we have the nucleus. It is the main feature that's probably the most obvious when you look under a microscope. For most of us, when we're looking through a microscope, we'll probably just see maybe just the semblance of the cell membrane of a cell, and then you might see some sort of light shading which would give us a hint that would be the nucleus. The other organelles tend to be very difficult to see depending on what you're looking at. But the cell nucleus tends to be very obvious. And those are all the beauty spots I was drawing in my earlier diagrams here. So you'll have to forgive me. I somehow forgot to spell nucleus correctly, so I corrected myself here. What does the nucleus do? Well, it's kind of the control center. At least that's what it's been mentioned in many different textbooks that I can find. And I think it's due to the fact that the nucleus contains the DNA of a cell. Now, we learn about DNA in grade 10 science for genetics, but for now, just simplistically, DNA is kind of like the blueprint or set of instructions for that cell. You, as a person, have a very unique set of instructions. A lot of your cells have the exact same copy of it in each one of the cells, and that's what makes you you. Somebody else has a different set of instructions. Different animals have a different set of instructions. So our DNA is what makes us unique, but the DNA also dictates what the cell will do and what the cell will make. So it's very important, that set of instructions, and those are located in these little beauty spots that I've drawn in here, the nucleus. But I just want to point out that not all cells have a nucleus. So a famous example would be red blood cells. They don't have a nucleus. They, at least a mature red blood cell, but I'll let you guys do the reading that you need to about blood cells. I won't give it all away. But when we kind of go back again to our classification, eukaryotic cells have a nucleus, but bacteria don't. So this would be an occasion where a cell doesn't have a nucleus. I might cut the video here, and we'll continue the next few organelles on the next video.